I know. But what you have to understand is, on the last episode, we just did one of the easiest logging contracts in the entire game. And now we're going into one of the hardest maps to do one of the hardest logging contracts. And there's just a lot of pressure to get this right. Yeah, I get that. I do. I know I have. I know. Believe me, I know. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's go. So you want to go into Imandra with long logs? Well, on this episode, we're going to do that. Welcome to Kola Peninsula. Let's get started. On this episode, we're going to do the Strategic Reserve contract. So the first thing we'll need to do is run to the port and grab a long log carrier for the back of this truck. This contract requires us to haul 3 loads of long logs to the warehouse in Imandra. There's a reason why we're doing this contract first heading into Imandra, and I'll show you what that reason is when we get there. This contract is arguably one of the hardest logging contracts in the entire game, and we're heading into Imandra, which is also one of the most difficult maps in the game. It should be quite the adventure. I've been looking forward to it. I really enjoy this contract, and it's a lot of fun to do in co-op when you have somebody to help you out. One of the reasons why this contract is so difficult is because you have to load the logs in the Lake Kovd map, as there isn't any logging station on the Imandra map that has long logs. So we'll head to the sawmill and get loaded up, and we'll trek across the map and make our way into Imandra. We're going to take the ice highway that we've been taking to cross the map. I did put chain tires on this truck, and in my opinion, chain tires would be the best choice for this, mostly because in the other map there's one stretch of highway that is horribly steep and lopsided, and you will need chain tires to get up it. There are different routes that we can take when we get to Imandra, but the way we're going today is the way that I suggest going. We'll get topped off one last time before we head out at the camp where we left the fuel trailer. Although the Dan probably doesn't need it, it's a pretty efficient truck, and with the 350 liter fuel tank, I think we could have probably made it there just fine without it. Let's head up through the factory and to the sawmill, and we'll get loaded. We will have to make a loop around once we get in here to get positioned and facing the right way before we load up. So we'll just go beyond the loading point up into the hillside here and make a nice big round loop. These logging trailers will flip you over if you try to back up and they get jackknifed. So if you're having trouble with it, just unhook from the trailer, get turned around, and use your winch to spin the trailer around again. All right, now that we're loaded, we can head out of here the same way we just came. We'll go through the factory, we'll take a left, and we'll cross the bridge that we built on the 3rd episode. Now that we're past the ice crossing, we'll just take this back road back up to the main road again. And it's pretty good driving from this point. We're coming up on the sketchy electrical pole crossing. We're gonna swing wide like we have been, and then I'm just gonna cut back down towards the ice. Now we'll just follow the ice shoreline all the way up until we get to the point where we started the Marsh's North Tributary contract. Then we're going to hang a left. This is the way we came down when we were rescuing the F-750. This will be our main road that we take while we're heading into Imandra from this map. It does get a little tipsy up here. Instead of following that track, I like to kind of try to stay to the right going up this snow hill to avoid tipping over. And then we'll just trudge our way through this mud until we get to the other side. I used to turn right here and follow that road around, but it leads you down to a mud pit. It's the same one that we went through with the Scout 800 when it got real deep real quick, and I prefer not to drive through that if I don't have to. So instead I'll just go straight through the trees here, and it's pretty decent driving until we get closer to the end, and then the snow gets pretty deep. But there is an electrical pole that we can winch to get through. Now that we've met back up with the main road, we'll just head towards the gateway. We do have to cross kind of an uneven ice spot here, but with the chain tires it shouldn't be any issue. It's more of a struggle when you're driving with off-roads or mud tires as you end up sliding down the hill into the rocks, but it can be done with either set. Now it's just a straight shot to the gateway. Should be pretty easy cruising from here. Just want to make sure you don't blow everything out on these rocks that are on the road. And welcome to Imandra, one of the most notorious maps in the game. The difficulty level is going to go way up now that we're in this map compared to Lake Kovd. There's some pretty treacherous roads here and a lot of deep mud, but if we drive in the right spots we can avoid a lot of it, and the rest of it we'll just have to winch our way through. Right away we're going to come up on this really bad mud hole, and I don't think that you'll be able to drive through here with much of anything other than the big Kenny. Even that's going to slow down. So we'll just winch our way through. Shouldn't have any problem. They were nice enough to put some logs in strategic places to get through here. And now that we're out of that, it's time to head down to the lake. So once we get to the Y in the road, just kind of drive straight through the middle, not taking either the left road or the right road, but instead going up the hillside and following the tree line. This will give us something to winch to if we start getting stuck in here. Some trucks do better here than others. The Dan does all right, but without the active suspension, we are still dragging the belly of the truck through the snow, so it is slowing us down quite a bit. And right before we reach the ice, we're gonna have to bounce across some boulders down here. This is where the Dan is going to struggle. There's not a whole lot to winch to down here. There are a couple trees on the ground, but once you drive over them, they disappear, so you have to be careful about that. Now that we're back on the ice, we can just follow it to the other side of the lake, and there's a pretty convenient spot where we can drive up through the trees, and we'll get up to the airport runway. Once again, we have plenty of trees to winch to if we need it, and we'll just use low gear and walk right up the hill. This will be the first place that we can get fuel once we're in Imandra, and there's a task here that we should get activated right away, a picture to remember. And we can also discover the Warthog. The Warthog is pretty damaged. It is drivable, but the gearbox is damaged just to the point where it likes to slip out of gear. So we'll just leave it there for now. Let's get topped off with fuel, and we'll make our way down the road and start heading towards the drop-off point. So leaving the airport here, I like to cut through the buildings here. It's not too bad, and we'll just go between this tower and that little shack right up over the hill, and then straight ahead you'll see there's a couple of tall trees. I like to just go right through the middle of them. You can go around them, either way's fine. I would suggest not trying to drive on the road where all the boulders are, because you'll just end up getting stuck on them. So we'll just follow the hillside here. It's kind of deep snow, but it's the better of two evils. And we made it through all of that. Let's head back to the road. Pretty decent driving here for a little bit, just following the road around. We're gonna meet up with some more boulders, and then we have to go down through this ice ditch. It's kind of steep on the other side, and the front of the truck likes to get stuck there sometimes. The bridge is out, so we're gonna have to turn off on this approach, and we'll take this back road down to the bottom of the ice. And there's a nice little rock crossing down here. You wanna make sure you drive straight far enough before you start turning. Don't be tempted to turn right away, or you'll end up in the lake. And then once we're on the other side, we'll just follow the shoreline down a little ways, and we're gonna meet back up with the highway. This is where things start to get rough. Most people make it to this point without any issues, and if you're going to tip your truck over, it's probably gonna happen here. So to get over these boulders, there are some trees to winch to, but you kind of have to get your truck positioned in just the right way to get across them. The Dan is having more trouble than some of the other trucks because it has that long front end sticking out, and that fuel tank on the side gets stuck on boulders pretty easily. I'm gonna see if I can get the truck turned to the right some by using these trees to winch to. It's a little bit nerve-wracking because this is where I always end up losing my load. I'll just keep working the truck around until I can make it through here. And we finally broke loose after all that struggle. Since we don't have a garage on this map just yet, there is a garage here, but we have to do some tasks to unlock it. We're a long ways away from home, and I don't want to tip this thing over. I think we're in the clear now, but we're not out of the woods yet. This is where it's pretty important that we have chain tires. Going up this road, it is so slick and really steep, and with the off-camber lean to the side, pretty much every truck that tries to go up this without chains is going to just slide off the road into the trees. But we made it just fine. So let's get up to the other side here, and we'll have to go down this icy spot where the road's kind of been broken out. There's some pretty big holes here, so I wouldn't go too fast through there. Now we've reached the last mud hole. You can try to go up around to the right, which works, but it does get you on a pretty heavy lean, or you can just go straight and use the power line pole, winch yourself through, which is the direction that I usually go, but it is pretty deep mud. We made it through. The warehouse is just here to the left, so we'll turn in here and get this load dropped off. We're only going to have time to make one delivery on this episode, and that's fine. The real reason why I did this one first was because we need to activate the task that's here in the warehouse parking lot. So we'll get that delivered, and we'll drive right past there, swing around, and get this task activated. This is the broken power station task, which is the first step to unlocking the Imandra garage. The next time we come in here, we're going to be taking a different route, and it's not going to go by here. So we want to make sure that we have that task activated before we start working on getting the garage open. I think it's pretty important to open the garage right away when you come into Imandra. Otherwise, you really don't have any kind of a safety net when you're doing stuff over here. So that'll be pretty much first on our list for things that we need to get done. But before we end this episode, there's one more thing that we need to do. Let's run back up the road. We're going to go discover an upgrade that is part of a pretty important contract in the future. Since we have this truck here, we might as well utilize its location. So we'll backtrack a little ways, head back up to where that mud pit is, and then we're going to hang a left and run up into the hills. And just follow this road a little ways, and then I like to turn off and go across country. You don't have to, you can follow it up a little further and take a left. But if you go across country, it's a little bit shorter, and it lines you up pretty nice with our destination. So we'll cross the road here and go down into this little valley, and you can see up ahead there's an upgrade. This upgrade is the metal detector module, which is a prerequisite to find when we start the Price of Victory contract. And since we'll most likely be recovering this truck out of here, as we'll need to go all the way back to Lake Kovd to bring in the second load, we might as well end it right here. So that's that. On the next episode, we're going to get started discovering the Imandra map by bringing the Action over here and doing a major expedition. Hope to see you then. It's definitely my favorite part of the entire Kola Peninsula region, and I look forward to it. Hope you do too. Thanks for watching.